Hello, everyone. We are going to talk about film and literature as an academic discipline. What would film and literature talk about? How written text as well as the visual image tell stories together. How through dialogue, through the cinematography, through adaptation techniques, we tell stories. So this can involve a comparison because I mentioned adaptation, how the novel gets adapted into the movie. That can be an adaptation, how the narrative works on the page vis-a-vis how it works on the screen. So how do you actually read a novel? You look at the words, the use of words, you look at the images used through words, you look at the voice, the characterization, the plot, the time. Whereas when you look at a visual narrative, you are looking at the framing, you're looking at the color, the lighting, the sound, the editing. So it is actually very different. And when an adaptation happens, what actually changes? How is the film text becoming a new text? Such questions are also there in film and literature. So now all the 21st century media have in many ways become intermedial. That means they are not remaining within one media. They become cross-media texts. So novels, plays, poetry, epics, these are also turned into visual media, film series, sometimes comics. So that issue of intermediality is an important aspect in film and literature studies. Then obviously, like we do in the case of literature, we have to talk about the authorship, the genre, the ideology in the text, the culture, and also the audience, the reception, how the audience receives a novel as well as a film text. I'm just introducing the basic issues in film and literature. Suppose I'm asking you, what are the basic questions that you ask if you are studying film and literature? What are the basic questions that you ask? Is the literary text in any way unique? Is it doing something unique that the film text cannot? And vice versa? Is the film text doing something that the literary text cannot? That's a valid question, isn't it? Is the adapted text, the film text, authentic? Is it betraying the novel? So this issue of betrayal is no longer valid. We don't understand the adapted text as a faithful reflection of the original text anymore. We understand that these two are two different texts. And we can also look at how the story is mediated by technology, of course, and how historical moments or history define our reading of a text. When you do a reading of a film, how do you actually read it? You can do close reading or textual reading, looking at all the deep aspects of the text, like you do in literature also. You look at the diction, the metaphor, the voice, the narration, etc. in literature. Like that, you can do close reading or close viewing of the film text also. You can study the mise-en-scène. Mise-en-scène means the setting, the framing, as I said, the editing, the sound, all this can be close read or close viewed. You might have heard of narratology. Narratology is the science of narrative. A story is what actually happened. A plot is you turn it into a narrative. Narratology looks at the narrative or plot. You can also apply semiotics. David Crystal, those who have Googled about film studies might have come across David Crystal, who is a semiotician. A lot of his ideas and works are there in the internet. So narratology will look at how a story is structured and told, what are the signs and symbols that are involved. It was Roland Barthes who divided the narrative structure into 5 codes. He divided it into 5 codes when he read Balzac's Saracen in S bar Z. The book, there he talks about 5 narrative codes. Well, I'm not going into Roland Barthes' codes right now. But I'm just telling you, narratological reading is one way of looking at it. And one more way is there. You can apply theoretical lens. You can look at feminist theory, post-colonial theory, Marxist or cultural theory, psychoanalytic theory, environmental theories, etc. when you read novels also. And you can also do comparative analysis. Compare the novel and the film, compare two films, like that also you can do. So, in order to study film and literature, we need to know film as well as literature. I hope that's clear. Now, what are the basic film theories? Which are the authors that you should read? You may perhaps look up David Bordwell. He's a classic, David Bordwell. Or you may look up Andre Bazin, Sergei Eisenstein. These are all very early writers. Laura Mulvey also talked about film. To understand visual culture studies and adaptation and stardom, you can look at Linda Hutcheon or Robert Stam. Then we can look at Gerard Genett. They are not actually film theorists, they are also narratologists. And another way of looking at film and literature is look at various Shakespeare adaptations, various Dickens adaptations, various Austen adaptations. That also we can compare. There are Margaret Atwood adaptations these days, maybe Tagore adaptations. You must have watched some on Netflix, right? Many Tagore adaptations are there. Haruki Murakami also, only one I know, Drive My Car. That is an adaptation, a film adaptation of Haruki Murakami. It was in Cannes Film Festival, but there might be more, I'm not sure. Looking at an author and looking at the entire corpus of his or her adaptations, that is one way of looking at it. So that is by way of introduction. Now, what I did, I am actually a student of film studies because my research topic, my PhD research topic was on film, was the representation of children in films. What I did is, I went to Pune Film Institute and FTII, and there I did a film appreciation course. You should do a very good film appreciation course so that you get to see all the classics, D.W. Griffith or Sergei Eisenstein or George Méliès, I don't know how it is pronounced. Like that, classics are there. If you watch them and read them and read about them and analyze these movies, it will be a very good foundation for your understanding of film and literature. Now, film came into being somewhere in the beginning of the 20th century, but it is in the mid-20th century that it actually began to be studied. We have the French New Wave and Italian Neorealism, German Expressionism. These are very early approaches in films. They are all avant-garde approaches. German Expressionism looks at the way in which the psychology of the characters is depicted. There is a fear, there is a paranoia. Very famous movies like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nosferatu, Metropolis. They are classics of German Expressionism. And it is not done anymore. That movement is over. But it has overlappings with postmodernism and modernism also. It was Sergei Eisenstein who talked about montage, the montage theory. If one woman is running, train is coming. One woman is running, train is... If you juxtapose these sequences together, it looks like the woman is trying to commit suicide. So that is how such a scene will be shot. So that is called montage. So film is no longer just literature put in a visual form, but it has an identity of its own. It has a language of its own. It has a grammar of its own. That is what Eisenstein and such film theorists were trying to establish. Now, all of them came before the Second World War, if I'm right. Then French New Wave of Godard, Truffaut. That is, again, classic. The Weekend, movies where there is stasis. Nothing happens actually. Very little plot, but through the language of the film, the grammar of the film, they communicate powerfully. That is how the French New Wave communicated. Truffaut, I think, just put his camera somewhere and took it in the evening. From morning till evening, the camera recorded. That is a famous movie. It is just raw rushes. So like that, a lot of experiments happened. What is different about French New Wave and earlier cinema? French New Wave is highly experimental and self-reflexive. They are not realistic. They are deliberately fragmenting human experience and showing that this is artificial. This is not real. All of you might have heard of Vittorio De Sica's movie, The Bicycle Thieves. Roberto Rossellini, Federico Fellini, 8.5 I saw. My God, it was so difficult to understand. They were so experimental that with a novice like me could not understand at that time. But then when you read about them, when you discuss them, when you come to know more and more about them, it makes sense. So film is like a new language, In the beginning, French doesn't make sense, German doesn't make sense, but when you get exposed to it more and more, it does. So what do Italian neorealists and people like Truffaut do? What did they do? They just used raw material of real life, somewhat like what Habib Tanvir, the playwright, did in Agra Bazaar. He just went to a bazaar in Agra, and people standing there made the theater. They made the play. There was no rehearsal as far as I know. It was very impromptu. Right. Apart from Italian cinema and French cinema, there is another magnificent tradition in cinema, that is Japanese cinema. Obviously, because of people like Ozu and our Kurosawa. Kurosawa's adaptations of Shakespeare also you might know. King Lear is adapted as Ran. The Throne of Blood is Macbeth. So, Japanese traditions, The Woman from the Dunes. Oh, what a movie that was. I watched it in FTII. So, that is a very different tradition from Asia. Of course, our own Satyajit Ray was no less. Ritwik Khatak, Mrinal Sen, Rituparno Ghosh. So, we also have a very rich tradition of cinema, and incidentally now, or till recently, I'm not sure of now, I think still Indian commercial cinema is producing the largest number of films. It's all over the world. Everywhere Indian cinema is there. Our Bahubali and Loka in Malayalam has come. They are all international bestsellers. Everybody is watching these in Indian movies these days. So there is so much to talk about in cinema. And look at the genres in Hollywood. Oh my God. Starting from the westerns, such American genres were there. Then the horror movie genre. What genre do you like? Do you like thrillers or horror movies or murder mysteries or detective fiction or romance or family movies or psychological thrillers? What do you like? Comment in the chat box. Because this is a collaborative effort. I am not only just telling you things, I would also like to learn from you. All our viewers would also like to learn from you. So please do comment in the chat box. It means a lot to us. Right. In the contemporary period also, Indian cinema has done really well. Not only in the commercial cinema sector, but also in the parallel cinema sector. Many names that I mentioned are parallel cinema people. And also in adaptations. A very important name when it comes to adaptations is Deepa Mehta. We know she adapted Midnight's Children, then Fire, Water, Air, all those movies. Also Meera Nair, she is also a name that we're all proud of, and so many others. So India is not behind in any of these sectors. We can see that these days, a lot of novels are being written from films. Many people write screenplays first and then write the novel. That is a common tradition that even Deepa Mehta's Water, I think, was written like that. Many novels have come from the screenplay. So if you know any such novel that was originally a screenplay, please do comment in the chat box, because I'm not a know-all. I would like to learn from you also. Right. So we were just looking at the tradition of cinema quickly. We didn't really talk about Hollywood. There are many stalwarts in Hollywood, as we know. I am not that much an expert in all that, but I know a man called Orson Welles, who pioneered Hollywood cinema. because he was experimental. The narrative technique of Citizen Kane was what made it stand out at that time. Then Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock is the pioneer of horror movies, and recently there is a very disturbing web series that has come called The Monster, Ed Gein story. Oh, it is unspeakably horrifying because there is a man who is snatching bodies from cemeteries and horrible things he is doing. It's actually very important for us to watch it, not because it's just another horror movie, because it is a retelling and reworking of history. There was such a woman during the Second World War, Ilse, in Germany, who did such horrible things with Jews. And also, Ed Gein's story is the inspiration for many movies like Psycho, Texas Chain Massacre, then that Anthony Hopkins movie. So many movies have been made based on this story. This web series is made in such a way that the intertextuality is brought out, and ultimately it is about the making of the American monster. And indirectly, they are also kind of saying that America is the monster. So it is a satirical take on American history and American society. When we talk about the history of cinema, another important name that we cannot leave out is that of Charlie Chaplin. Did you know he was the son-in-law of Eugene O'Neill? And Charlie Chaplin's silent movies, they are so Dickensian in their depiction of the ordinary, suffering, working class people. So all these in Sweden, there is Ingmar Bergman, another very famous classic. Chinese cinema is important. Then South Korean cinema, Kim Ki-duk. All of you might have seen also Paradise, that award-winning movie, Oscar award it won. So all these are very important writers and thinkers and filmmakers, etc., that we need to know about. Shyam Benegal, I don't think I mentioned Shyam Benegal in India. So like always, I gave you an overview of the history and literature in this video also. But that is not what the video is about. It is also about the theories that we can apply in reading these texts. Okay, so we start with adaptation theory. It is the very old view that the book is the original and adaptation should be faithful to the book. That kind of a reflection theory is not accepted anymore. The modern view, as I've already mentioned, is that adaptations are creative interpretations. The people who make adaptations are actually making a new text. So this is somewhat like what Linda Hutchins says, cultural translation. This is something like cultural translation. How does the movie culturally translate the text? In the history of film theory, there is a concept called auteur theory. That means an author or a filmmaker has a typical style and the directors are the authors, looking at their oeuvre and looking at the signature style that they evolve in their works. Of course, Alfred Hitchcock is one. He is known for his suspense. And maybe Akira Kurosawa is another. He is known for his epic storytelling techniques. 8.5 director is Fellini. Fellini is known for very bizarre, surreal, dream-like narration. Now, a concept that I talked about in some other videos is applicable here also. Film is no longer film. What do you mean by that? Film is not just film. It is intermedial. That means between media. It mixes different media. There are documentary techniques mixed in feature films. There are painting-like techniques mixed in films. Of course, film by definition is intermedial because it will have music, it will have dance, it will have other art forms. Today, animation, CGI or animation can be mixed with live action movies. A lot of epic movies that we watch are actually partly animation. It is not all live action. So there might come a time when a live action movie that we watch can be fully animation. We are not even looking at an actor. It can come like that. So We should understand that stories flow across media. Stories are not just, they cannot remain in one media. It's like water, it's fluid. So that means narrative theory that is generally applicable for literature can be applied here also. Now, another very important theory applicable in literature and film is psychoanalysis. As you know, Freud, Lacan, and such, Carl Jung, many psychologists are there who talked about the film, which is like a dream. The text is a dream. The film is a dream. It has a hidden, repressed, latent part. What is that repressed part in the film that has to be brought out? Laura Mulvey is doing something like that when she talks about the male gaze in cinema. The camera will automatically take a male gaze. So this is bordering not only on psychoanalysis, but also on feminism and gender studies. Similarly, as I have told you already, post-colonialism is also a very important part. There is a lot of African cinema, Latin American cinema, etc., that talks about racial issues. You should visit film festivals and see some of these films, and you should search out these films and watch them. Be a connoisseur of great cinema, because that is a very big area in itself. Then we have spectatorship studies, stardom studies, fandom studies. I am sure you have heard all this. There are also technology-based research areas that you can think of. How, for example, streaming, the politics of OTT, or the cultural implications of OTT, when from the big screen which you watch in a public space, cinema becomes very personal. That is when sexuality and disturbing violence, etc., came to be accepted. Because in the big screen, what will be edited out and censored, you can easily watch on OTT. There is no censorship there. So there is a cultural politics behind censorship, and how OTT is a democratization of cinema, how OTT platforms led to universalization of cinema. All that is very important. You have to collect a number of titles and watch them several times, do textual analysis, identify the different parameters in the films, and try to apply the theories. In the beginning, all these things are a little difficult, but it is also possible and easy. For English literature students, there is an area that is not at all worked on, that is film pedagogy. How to teach film. Actually, I know a few people who are actually into this field. It is an upcoming field, but a lot of people have not worked on this yet. So film pedagogy, how should film be taught? And you can compare syllabi, film studies syllabi, film theory syllabi, and combine it with ideas like visual culture or media literacy, and maybe you can devise a research project in that way also. Apart from all this, there is one thing that you all might like doing, that you're already doing in a small way or big way. What is that? Making a film. Making a film, acting in a film. If you are interested in film studies, at least in a small way, do it, because this is a highly democratized world. Whatever films you make will be watched somewhere or the other by somebody or the other. This internet, the digital space, is an amazing space. If not now, eventually it will become valuable. So my last advice to you, or the last tip that I can give you, is, along with studying film and literature, make your own films. That is possible and that is important. I am looking forward to hear from you regarding all that. Comment in the chat box. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.